Okay. Let me make sure actually that I can be heard. And let's check my mic settings. Doo-doo-doo. Yep. And yep, it's good. Yep. Okay, and that should be good. And then, yep, it's fine. Okay. I can be heard. We're good. And actually, I will bring up these. I will just get some of these pictures. Yep, and then yep. Then yep. Then yep. Oh, true. Actually, I don't know where that is. Hey, Tailgate, how you doing, man? I'm just getting some pictures. But I'll be ready in a minute. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a great Christmas and New Year's. And yeah, I hope you have a great year. 2024. Okay. I'm gonna wait for maybe a few more people to trickle in as well. And then we will begin. I can go to here. Okay. So this is going to be pretty. I actually think it's pretty it's not that complicated at all, but I think it's pretty significant. Felix, I would have completely forgotten. I would have completely forgotten if it wasn't for you, my friend. So yeah, like I have you to thank for that. But yeah, I gotta finish the. Actually, let me just. Gotta finish the. That should be fine. Okay. Yeah, I'm actually really happy with this video, and well, overall this theory, the veil theory in general, and the first, yeah, thank you again. So the first video was all about the veil, and really it was taking something that was very vague and seemingly just put into the game for really goofy reasons and trying to make sense of it and providing answers. And originally I was going to make a video and I was going to absolutely rip and tear into the veil. I was going to talk about how it didn't make any sense and how it really most likely was just Bungie creating a plot point and a gimmick to center the whole importance of Neomuna around. But, you know, I don't like bashing things for the sake of it, and I wasn't going to bash it for like the sake of it, because let's be honest, it's a bit of a, you know, I like to call the veil the narrative tumor of Destiny, but still, I don't like being overly negative, and I thought, you know what? Okay, fine. I'm going to go really deep into this, and I'm going to try and find some type of, if there's any explanation. If I went digging and there was absolutely nothing, then I probably would have just bashed it. But in the end, I was like, well, wait a minute. This thing is connected to that thing, and then this thing is connected to this thing, and then that thing is actually connected to that same thing over there. And then I began to kind of put the pieces together. And am I saying that this was the entire intent of Bungie from the beginning? No, I don't know. I think there's honestly a chance that they just threw this thing in for the giggles. But that being said, this makes sense to me. And that was the Veil Theory Part 1. It was me giving my explanation of what the Veil is, its true power, potentially the character connected to it, and even potentially how it can be connected to the final shape or post-final shape. And that was Part 1. And I felt really good about it. I felt really, really good about it. But then, there was a different video that I had planned to make ages ago. And I even had said before that I wanted to make this video. And that video was about the truth behind the Cloud Arc. And the connection between, and I didn't say this, but it was really the connection between how the Neomuni use the Cloud Arc and then the reality of the current state of the Pyramid Race. And long story short, we have the Veil Theory Part 2, which takes everything I said in the Veil Theory Part 1, builds off of that, and now we can have a very substantial explanation for a lot of different things. If my memory works better than Trials and Crucible anti True. True, dude. I actually I haven't really been playing anything at all, to be honest with you, but I am yet to run into cheaters in Destiny, fortunately enough. Hey everyone, just saw the notification for the live. Hey Alloy, I hope you're doing well, man. Also, I said this to Tailgate, but everybody who's here so far, I hope you had a great Christmas and New Year's, and that you have a great 2024. The Mass Effect games are one of the game series that made me like the ancient alien sci-fi trope. I plan on playing those games, by the way, Tailgate. I got the, like the, what's it called, the Legendary Edition or something? Let me check. Yeah, I got the Legendary Edition, and eventually I'm going to play through all 3 games the first time. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a fun time. But yeah, I'm gonna just get straight into it. I'm gonna do my spiel, and I did say this at the start, and I really don't think that this is too complicated. I think that if you did watch that video, for the most part, you pretty much understand everything anyway. But I'm gonna go over everything again, and yeah, I'm really excited about this because I think it actually gives me, even if Bungie never does fully explain the Veil, even if the Veil really was just a gimmick they made up on the spot, even this is gonna be my headcanon. Let's just put it like that. It's not me making anything up for the giggles. It's all literally using things from the lore. And it pretty much answers everything that I have wanted to know about the relationship between the Pyramid Race and the Witness, the connection between the Veil and the Pyramids, and I think that sometimes I wonder if Bungie uses different factions and different events in the lore to actually kind of point towards something else. And okay, I'll get to this in a minute, or later on, but you'll know what I mean. You'll know what I mean. But I kind of feel like this is an actual example of that. I don't know what the Reaper Roar is. I don't know what the Reaper Roar is. But yeah, I'm gonna just get into it. Okay, so let me pull up these. Okay, so this is obviously the Veil, and get my head out of the way if I can. There we go. So part one was all about what is the veil, and the veil ultimately is described as being the manifestation of darkness in the universe, and also it is the, I guess a collection of consciousness. And ultimately, what it came down to is that I think that the veil potentially contains the location known as the Deep that is mentioned in the Books of Sorrow, and it is and this Deep location would be the opposite to the Pale Heart location in the Traveler. And while I don't believe that the Traveler and the Veil are the exact same in the sense that they came from the same place, because the one is very clearly it's a machine and the other is organic, the two powers within those entities are for certain paired. And it's not that they were the same, but them having come from the same location makes them basically very similar to each other in this universe, just because of that. So anyway, with that in mind, the veil seemingly was naturally formed over time. There's no indication or no information about it being artificially created. And apart from that, the only thing that we know about the veil, apart from it being, people trying to use it for their own means, is that it seems to be connected to egregore. And that's actually really important. And I think I might actually make a video on this in the future, because this has changed, this has really, really changed my perspective on presage, for example. So, with all of that being said, let's talk about the veil theory part 2. And the overall point and purpose of the veil theory part 2 is this. It is to take the veil, as I have explained it, and painstakingly show that it can be used for true immortality. And I went over this so many times in that video, and true immortality is the ability to live forever, and you don't need your body as well. You can live beyond the physical realm. And what I found that was really interesting is that although my primary goal was to show and establish the link between the pyramid race in their current form and how the people on Neomuna use the Cloud Arc, it ended up kind of happening that as I did my research, that the EXO program came into it a lot as well. And I think ultimately we have 3 different attempts from potentially 3 different human factions, but 2 human factions for sure, and then 1 other, that you try to use the power of the veil to attain true immortality. And I think out of the 3, I do think the Pyramid Race have come the closest to actually getting that. But I think because of some things that we have the ability to see in the world, I think they may have a very interesting weakness. But anyway, so I'm just going to go through this bit by bit. And I'm a little bit, I'm not fully, in the, I'm still kind of getting back into the swing of things. So if I'm a bit, out of it, I do apologize. But yeah, I'm just going to do my best with it. Okay, so what really made all of this begin was the Neomuni. I'm sorry, Neomuni is such a cringe word to say for me. And I found it extremely interesting when Lightfall came out, and we had these boys here in their hologram form. And even though they were holograms, they were living, breathing people. This wasn't AI. These were actual manifestations of the people. And what's interesting is that, to a certain extent, I almost look at this as the body and then the soul right here. That's just me looking at it. But this isn't just an AI or just an image. This is the actual consciousness and mind of the person. and they're able to manifest, and they can go around, they can look and interact and speak with each other and speak to you, and without the ability to maybe but to just randomly touch something that isn't connected to the Cloud Arc, they basically are able to move around in the real physical world without their bodies. And what I had like a light bulb moment where I was on Neomuna and I was looking at all these holographic people, and I just was like, wait a second. Based off of everything that I already knew at this time about the pyramids, what's the difference between what they're doing and what the pyramids are doing? In the sense that basically you take away the if you were to take away the holograms, they are literally the pyramid race right now. Because and there's no for the record, there's no information on this at all, but there's no seeming like requirement for them to be visible and have a hologram. The hologram just seems to be for us to see them and for them to see each other. But it seems like they can still do that. I wouldn't be surprised if they can still do that without having the hologram. The hologram just seems to be just an indicator that they're there, right? So what's the difference between them and the pyramid race except for the hologram? You can just see the one and you can't see the other. Okay. And also, I won't get into this, but as time has gone on, I've become I've always been a bit paranoid about this. I've always been a little bit paranoid about this, but I will say that considering the fact that the nightmares never really made it past Shadowkeep, there's a part of me that actually wonders if originally the nightmares were the pyramid race taking on the form of dead guardians to haunt us, and if that makes sense. And I'm not gonna explain it and go super deep into it, but the point is that although the pyramid race don't have any real indications of them being around except for the whispers and maybe the fog, potentially the nightmares were like a considered way of that happening. But that's whatever. Okay. So then you had the big boy, which was the Irkalla complex. And I'm going to pull this up over here. And the main thing about this is what Irkalla actually is, which is Irkalla is the ancient Sumerian afterlife, underworld. And long story short, the Cloud Arc is connected to the Veil. That's a fact. And we know that this is a fact because in the final mission of Lightfall, you actually see a prototype Cloud Arc connected to the Veil. Also, it just makes sense. And I think that this complex being named after the Sumerian afterlife is no coincidence, because effectively the power of the Veil with the Cloud Arc and all of that, to a certain extent, they're tapping into what I said was true immortality. So, how did they do this? Well, in the beginning, they used the power of the Veil to create a pocket, effectively, dimension, I would say. And there are a lot of these different things that exist in Destiny 2. So you have whatever their original version of the Cloud Arc was. You have the what's it called? The Ascendant Plane. You have the Throne Worlds. You have effectively whatever plane the Pyramid Race are in. And then you have the Nightmare Plane, which we went into for Duality, the dungeon. And I'm sure there are others that I'm potentially just forgetting, but you get my point. So using the power of the Veil, the Neomuni were able to create some kind of dimension. Let's put it like that. And at first they just used it as a closet to store things. And then it was only when the guy known as Conrad Jane began to mess with the tech and experiment, and eventually, after he was caught and then allowed to keep working on it, he created the Cloud Ark, which we now know is used for the Neomuni to just live and do whatever without their bodies. So I talk about this in the video, and it is that, you know, I might just pull up a... Can I pull up like a paint thing? Yeah, it's cool. So we've got the true... Okay, this is going to be awful though. The true... Oh boy. Come on, man. True... The true immortality equation. Nice. Okay. And that is that you need. How will I devise this concoction? How will I create this new equation? We are going to say that Ti is equal to S plus I minus P. Yes. I am actually just I just made this up on the spot. Okay, anyway. So Ti is true immortality, and S is equal to souls, I is equal to immortality, and minus P is minus the physical plane. Minus the reliance on physicality. So let's look at the Cloud Ark. Okay. I hate this so much. Cloud. I've seen people do like texts, like text. Eh? Why are you so small? Become bigger. Increase. Okay. So the Cloud Ark. No, don't. I've made a mistake. Okay, we're good. Okay, we have... Okay. How do I... Eh? Okay, well, it's there. You see it. Okay. Now, how do I go back? Brush. That's it. There we go. Okay, nice. Excellent. So, now the Cloud Ark, it gets... that, but not. How do I write this down? S plus P. No, actually, that's not it. S. Where's Gaujin when I need him? No, come back! No, what did I... No, come back! I'm sorry! No! Oh, and it's gone. Okay. I don't know how to revert or undo. S. No. No. S. Okay, just... Bro, I give up. I don't give up. No, don't save it. Okay. That didn't happen. So, the equation of true mortality, did the Cloud Ark achieve that? No, it did not. Why not? it enabled them to go beyond their bodies and go beyond the physical plane, basically just go beyond their bodies, right, as the holograms. But they are not immortal, seemingly. And that's because their bodies are still connected to them. They can't live without their bodies. And so wherever their bodies are, if they're in storage or they're in hibernation or cryo storage or whatever, if the bodies die, they die. And the reason why I know this is because if they did not need their bodies to be in hologram form, then these wouldn't exist. And these are for all of the Cloud Striders. And that's basically as simple as that, right? These contain all of the memories, and not the memories, but like the journals and information about the Cloud Striders. And if a Cloud Strider could physically die, but then have their consciousness uploaded to the Cloud Ark, then they could just be a hologram forever. They would surely do that, but they don't, because they can't. So it's not true immortality, because their bodies are very much still relevant. If the bodies are killed, or when the bodies naturally die, they die. So there you go. That's that. Also, the technology itself is at risk. If the servers go offline, if the Veil or the Cloud Ark gets an error code weasel, they go bye-bye. So they are very much vulnerable, and they have not achieved true immortality. Okay, cool. So that is the Neomuni and the Cloud Ark. They used the power of the Veil to achieve this state, which is them leaving their bodies and living without them. But they are not truly immortal. Okay. Next, let's talk about the Exos. And the reason why the Exos are relevant at all to this is, again, because of the Veil. But the Exos are actually really interesting because the hologram nature of the Neomuni is a link, and they're existing without bodies. That itself was a link between them and the Pyramid Race. The Exos have a link between them and the Pyramid Race, but that is actually through the science of how they were made, in my opinion, and how they are, whatever. Okay, let me explain. So, it also brings into the whole discussion the Veiled Woman statues. And I had a picture of the one on the Europa, but I don't know where it'd be. I thought I had it. Anyway, I'll just bring this one up. It'll do the same thing. It's fine. It's fine. Excuse me. So on Europa, Clovis Bray, the first of his name, discovers Clarity Control. And Clarity Control is effectively one of these. And he uses Clarity to transfer the consciousnesses, or effectively the souls, of a person from their body into a compatible new host. And it's tricky because you need to figure out exactly what the balance is, because the Exos are a combination of the efforts and the powers of both the Veiled Woman statues and the Vex. In my opinion, based off of my reading of the Beyond Light Collector's Edition lore, I believe that the Vex were mainly used for the physical element of things, the creation of the exo body, but also specifically a body that could contain that type of consciousness, in my opinion anyway. Also, the Vex Radiolaria was another way of kind of getting rid of some of the negative, let's just call it poison, that was within Clarity. And Clarity is a reference to any type of darkness power. Okay. And therefore, I then believe that Clarity Control was responsible for transferring the consciousness from one body to another. And easy example of this, and again, I found this from my research, is actually Tanix and Atrax. It specifically said that, I mean, literally Tanix and Atrax, when they're created, it's in a room that's right, beyond clarity control. And presumably enough, their operations were connected to the Veiled Woman statue. And I will get into the Veiled Woman statue later for the pyramid stuff, but the inevitable question is, you need to explain the statues in the sense of their power. And I will explain it later, but my explanation for now is just that the Veiled Woman statues use the power of the veil. Also, my research into clarity control specifically was very interesting, as it straight up shared behavior that was found with the veil. Phenomena such as, hearing your own voice, or people that speaking to you and whatnot. And then also just the death, just the dying. You touch the pinky of the woman and you die, or you walk up to the veil and you die. And ultimately, yes, I believe the statues are powered by the veil. So long story short, you have the Exos. And why did Clovis make the Exos? It's because he wanted immortality. And he straight up calls the statue, he says it in French, which is unlucky, but he calls it the Fountain of Youth. Again, this is a link to immortality. So we have these Exos that are effectively made using the power of the veil. Do the Exos achieve the true immortality equation? No, because they are actually immortal. So they are immortal. And technically, they did succeed in removing their souls or their consciousnesses from the physical human body into that body. And technically, they could probably swap it from exo to exo, maybe? I know that that's what Clovis did. So to a certain extent, you kind of can move around a bit between bodies as a soul. The issue is just that if the exo body dies, then you die with it. So you're very vulnerable in that sense. And so whereas with the Cloud Ark, they would be trying to keep their real bodies hidden. As an exo, you need to protect yourself. But that being said, you can potentially move your soul between different exo bodies or exo compatible bodies, and you are immortal because the exo is going to live forever, presumably, right? That being said, the holograms have the advantage of not being outright destroyable. So if you were their enemy, I mean, they can't presumably do anything to you either, but like, if you were trying to destroy them, if you couldn't access the Cloud Ark or their bodies, you would not be able to touch them. And obviously that's what happened in the war on Neomuna with the Shadow Legion. Okay. So that is the Exos, made using the power of the veil in an attempt to get immortality. And then you have the Neomuni with the Cloud Ark, and although it's mainly for their own safety using the Cloud Ark, it is kind of tapping into that immortality direction. And I wouldn't be surprised if... See, the thing is, I don't think they ever will achieve it, because Veil Containment tells us that after the the whole Maya Sundaresh thing that happened and all of that, is it Chioma Essie, pretty much made sure nobody knew about the veil. And I think the issue with that is the information itself is kind of done. So I don't know how much knowledge about the veil was used to create the original version of the Cloud Ark, the closet version, if you know what I mean. I'm actually guessing a little bit because the prototype was connected to the veil and in pretty close proximity. But in my opinion, from everything that I have read, Conrad Jane, the guy who made the Cloud Ark as we know it, I don't think he actually knew about the Veil and its true nature. I think he was just working with whatever he could come up with and whatever he had access to, which I don't think was a lot. So if the Neomuni had the Cloud Ark and they wanted to take it to the next level and make it so that they could live in the Cloud Ark even when their bodies died, I don't know if they would have the ability to. But theoretically, if all information was revealed and they could access the Veil in whatever way they were able to, potentially they could do that, but for now they can't. Okay, so I know I went like really kind of rambly about the Vex, or not the Vex, the Exos and the Neomuni, but the main reason why I made this video is for the singular purpose in trying to answer the age-old question. Please open. Ah, it worked when I said please. Okay. What is the truth about these guys? And we've talked about this a lot. We've talked about this a lot. I talked about in my video, where are the race? And in my video, I explained that I believed that they basically went beyond their bodies in an attempt to go beyond the physical realm and achieve immortality. That ended up being pretty much right. I've talked about the original story of Destiny 2 with the collapse and how they were potentially removed from their bodies by the Traveler's sacrifice, and a whole story with Nezarec and all of that. I've made videos talking about the Whispers, not a lot, but I've referenced it and whatnot. And ultimately, in this video, I sought to end this discussion once and for all in giving a very clear and pretty straightforward answer about it. Let me see if I can get a better picture. I'm just going to go with this one because I like it. I like it a lot. There we go. Okay. Okay, here we go. So let's talk about the Pyramid Race. The Pyramid Race were made using the Veil. Obviously. We know this from the cutscene in Season of the Deep. And they used the Veil to create the Witness. And why did they create the Witness? It's very simple. They created the Witness to be their tank. To be their ultimate weapon and powerhouse. I believe that when when you look at Lightfall and how the Witness just face tanked the Traveler's beam, I actually think that that is really why the Witness was made. The Witness was designed to be that tank. To be able to take on any opposition to get the final shape. And just literally unstoppable, unmoving, just moving forward. But that being said, making the Witness came at a very severe cost. And that was the death of everybody. And it didn't seem to be that pleasant either, considering their bodies were all cut up. And so, something that has, and it's not just been me who's asked this, I've heard it from other people. It's the question of, was this done willingly or were they forced? And in my opinion, I think we have the answer to that now. In my opinion, I believe that, so I have always believed this, and I'm not going to really super get into it, but when you go really deeply into the nature of the way the witness communicates to us, you go through all of the different times the witness has communicated. I think there's roughly about 3 different times, or 3 different ways. 2 or 3. No, 3. There's 3, yeah. What is not one of those 3 are the whispers. And what I will say is this. There are people who believe that when you go into a pyramid ship and you hear whispers, that is the witness. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to be as nice as possible, but if you believe that, then the only explanation that you have is that the whispers are just there for the sake of it, and that's it. You're going to say it's the witness, but you have no idea what their purpose are, or what's being said, or anything like it's just that, oh, the witness is just making general ambience. And I fundamentally reject that. From the very beginning, I have believed that the whispers are of the pyramid race. And since, I would say, 2021, maybe, I have believed that these whispers are of their souls. Now, I haven't understood exactly how this worked. I didn't understand what the story was. I've done a lot of digging, and I found out about the whole original story stuff, and then there was the concept art and Witch Queen that seemed to indicate that they were experimenting on themselves, and we didn't really know. I didn't really know exactly what the story was and how they did it. But all I knew for certain is that the witness exists, but they are still there. And so this is the ultimate question. And I'm just going to make a new document here. Put this here. The witness is the combined the witness is the combination of the entirety of the pyramid race, and yet their souls exist separately to it. That is the big question. How do you answer that? And in this video, I am very confident that I found the answer. So, with that being said, let me explain to you. Let me find a better picture real quick. If we go to here, go to here. This is a good picture. Yes. Okay. Okay. So, with the Vex and the Exos and the Neomuni and the Cloud Arc, those are 2 different attempts at achieving immortality effectively, using the power of the Veil. We've already been through this. They both are attempts at this using the power of the Veil. What both of them 100% contain are the removal and transference of the consciousness or souls from their physical body to somewhere else. Okay. And we also know from the Presage mission that when Cabal encountered the Egregore, a similar thing happened to them. Okay. So now let's talk about the Pyramid Race and what happened here. So I already had the what to a certain extent, which is that, okay, so the witness is a thing, but somehow the race are able to exist beyond it. What I didn't have is the how. I do have the why though, and I'll tell you this. And it's so simple, and I'm sure you will agree with this. So the why is literally because it allows them to be free and immortal. Imagine either willingly or being forced to, like, can you imagine, right, if whoever, because I do believe there was one or two key characters who were involved in the creation of the Witness, right? Imagine trying to convince your entire people to die for you, to create this Witness. What do you think is more convincing? You will die, but then you will create the Witness which will achieve our goal. Or you will die, but then you will become and create the Witness who will achieve your goal, or sorry, rather our goal, and at the same time you will be able to move around freely in spirit form and, still live in the ships. Effectively immortal. You will live forever until the final shape is achieved, effectively, whatever. That to me is a far more compelling offer. And if that was the offer, I definitely see the Pyramid race more likely being willing to become the Witness. Okay. So now let's try and figure this out. And really what it all comes down to is the veil. So first of all, like I said, we know that the veil was used for the creation of the race, or the Witness. Not just because of what the cutscene implicates, but also because of Nezarec. And Nezarec says that the Pyramid race are the Veil's first victims. Okay, interesting. So the power of the Veil was used to create the Witness. Interesting. Well, now let's talk about the Veiled Woman statues, because they are everywhere in the ships. What is their purpose? Excuse me. And purpose is a very important word here, because I made a video about these statues, and I explained why they were of the gardener. But there's two different types of purpose that can exist. And there's probably more, but at least what's coming to my mind. You have practical and you have symbolic. So, to me, the symbolic purpose of these statues is within their representation of the gardener, because these statues represent the gardener. And that would be due to, just look at, again, look at the urns and all of that. This purpose is probably more of a religious and also potentially, personal vendetta one, But the reality is that these statues in the ships are not just statues, they are technology. So there is a practical purpose. Okay. And then we're like, okay, so then what is the purpose of the statues? What's the practical purpose of the statues? Again, when you look at the exos, how were the statues practically used? They were used to transfer the consciousnesses from humans and fallen into exos. And again, this is the power of the veil. And the statues are powered by the veil, and so the statues can be used to do that. So these statues are everywhere in the ships. And there's the belief that there's only one per ship. I actually personally don't believe that. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more. But I do believe that there's one usually in the heart of each pyramid. And I think this is based off of people studying the lunar and the European pyramid. The reason why I don't believe that there's just only one is because the European pyramid had two, at least two that we've seen. And also the fact that I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think the pyramid statue, or the woman's, whatever, the veiled woman statue, I don't think the statue in Nezarec's pyramid was in the center, or the heart of the pyramid. So if that is the case, then there should be a statue at the heart. So that would imply there's also more than one. It doesn't really matter. Okay. Okay. Now before I get into the next part, I want to address one really important point, which is, why would there be a quote-unquote race if they're all just the witness? And the witness speaks using us and we. It's a combination of people, and it's, you know, effectively the representative of the race. Their personalities are all gone. Their souls are all gone. It's just this one being. And the issue I have with that, and I say this in the video, is that the individual still remained after the creation of the witness. And just handy enough in this picture, look. These are indications of that. And I've already covered this in videos, and you guys that are here, you've probably watched my videos, so you already know. These are heavily inspired, if not directly ripped off, of canopic jars from ancient Egypt. Canopic jars were used in the religious, I guess, what's the word? The journey from life to the afterlife. It's part of that transition. And again, that takes us back to the Irkala complex and the afterlife. And the fact that all of these urns that are linked to the transition to the afterlife are huddled under this statue, it suits both the religious and the practical purpose of the statues. And for the practical purpose, I would say that, well, I'll just say it. I am very confident, and to me this is my headcanon now, because I don't actually see any other explanation that makes sense yet, that the Veiled Woman statues, since they are powered by the veil, and because we now know what the veil is capable of, it makes sense to me that the veil allows the pyramid race to exist beyond the witness. And I gave this analogy before. I'll say it again. So the witness is obviously powered by the veil. It was created... Why did my... the notification that a... Bro, why is my ad blocker... I don't care how many ads you blocked for me. I'm going to block you now in a second, and we'll see how you feel. Bro, how do I delete this? Options. Nope. I don't know how to stop this thing from opening up. Doesn't matter. Okay. So the witness is powered by the veil, and the statues are powered by the veil. Therefore, the two just automatically have a connection. The race, in my opinion, have the ability to separate from the witness. The question is, how far can they actually go? And this was the analogy that I gave. You have a big house. You want internet. You go and you get a router. But the internet doesn't reach every room in the house. Maybe the router only has a certain range and the house is too big. Maybe the walls are too thick and the signal is, it can't go through each wall into each room. Or the signal's just bad, What do? You can get Wi-Fi boosters. What you'll do is you'll get the Wi-Fi booster and you'll go to whatever room you want that's on the edge of the signal, and you'll plug it in, pair it with the router, and it will boost that signal even further. And you can do that as many times as you want until the whole house is internet. And that is what I believe these statues do. These statues boost the power and the presence of the witness. And that is actually why I believe when we went to the moon pyramid, even though the witness was outside of our galaxy potentially, the witness was still able to detect our presence and possess our ghost. So the statues basically will act as a way for the witness to be, not be, but its power to be in multiple places at once. I don't think the witness itself is actually there. It's just that because the thing is, you need to understand that the witness is extremely powerful. Whatever power these statues have, I would say the witness is far beyond them. And yeah, I think that these statues are the signal boosters of the witness. So I just, at a base level, okay, I believe that these individuals that have become the witness are able to break off and separate from the one being. And I think then that these statues act as a way for them to go beyond even further. And so what does that mean? Well, then that means that when you hear whispers in the ships, that is the race talking. When you see the fog or when doors open and stuff like that, that means that they are interacting with the ship. And all of this makes complete sense to me. And it's a very, I think it's a very neat and tidy explanation. The other thing then is that I actually would argue that probably depending on how many souls are, this is me making this up now, but depending on how many souls are disconnected from the witness, its power level is probably going up and down constantly. So when the Traveler nuked it, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like, okay, everybody come back, come back. Okay, now we're at 100% power, let's go. But when it's just chilling or it's not, it's probably whatever. And this is just me trying to make sense of that logic, right? I'm trying to see, am I forgetting anything else? But that is basically, like, yes, the power of the veil was used to, first of all, create the witness. It took the souls from the bodies and transferred them to be all together to create the witness. That being said, though, I do believe that using the Veiled One statues, the souls are able to disconnect and then freely move around, but you just can't see them. At least there's not been any true indication to the general player base of their existence, right? So, like, for example, I can see the fog, and I can be like, yes, that's probably an indication of the race, right, being there. Or I hear the whispers. But for most people, they're just going to be like, oh, these ships are just empty. So, final point. Did the pyramid race achieve true immortality? And you know what? I was originally going to say yes. And that was originally like what I was writing in the video, which was that, okay, so again, going back to the equation, what is true immortality, yada, 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 yada. And so it's like, okay, so the Cloud Ark didn't do it, and the Exos didn't do it, but the Pyramid Race did do it. This is the, like, mastered version of it. But then I remembered something. And it was that, wait a minute. And I'm going to try and find it now. You're going to have to wait 5 hours now while I search for the picture, because that's what usually happens. Oh boy, he's done it again. Let me go to... Bro, I don't know where. It's probably in my screenshots folder somewhere. And I've got a lot of screenshots. Okay, go here. Extra, modified. Perfect. Let me just scroll down like a lot. Here we go. That's not too bad. Boom. So not only do they have their canopic jars, but when the Witch Queen changed the pyramid ship architecture, they also introduced the bodies of the race that are like all mummified and all that. And so that made me think, well, wait a minute, like why do that? So first of all, this just again adds to the argument about how even though the witness was made, the individual still exists. But second of all, why drag your bodies around on these ships? And also, if it's just, you know, oh, like our bodies and, you know, we've transitioned to the after, the urns do that. Even if the urns don't have anything in them, just again, symbolically, the urns do that. So again, why have their bodies? And then you combine that with lore that everybody kind of, in my opinion, has kind of slept on their its significance, which is this bad boy. Picture, I opened you, and oh, I have to say please. I forgot. Sorry. Please open. Yeah, we got it that time. This is Cenotaph. And I know actually this is like a butchered. I just downloaded this because I was curious about the 3D model. You get the idea. It's fine. So I already made this video about the Witness's potential backup plan, which I really recommend you watch. Excuse me. But really what it explains is that the pyramids have the capability and the ability to kill something, cut it up into pieces even, but it still is alive. And also with that, so this was like a beast, right, that was on display. There was even the potential implication of it, you know, being saved to be brought back someday. So with that in mind, there is no reason to believe that these bodies cannot potentially be brought back to life. Here's the thing. Why would they have their bodies? The answer is simple. In my opinion, the only answer that is even on the table is that their bodies are a failsafe. Well, first of all, two things. First of all, their bodies act as a failsafe. So if the witness is defeated or is somehow, I don't know, if the witness is powered by the veil and then the veil got like blown up or something, or the witness was, I don't even know how you disconnect it from the veil, but you know what I'm trying to say. Then instead of just all their souls just disappearing into the ether, they would go back to their bodies. And their bodies have therefore been kept alive to a certain extent for the souls to be able to go back in. Because I think if their bodies were truly dead, I don't think or know if the souls could go in. Also, depending on how old these bodies are, if they were dead, then I feel like they should have crumbled by now. Something, in my opinion, must be done to these bodies for them to still maintain that level of integrity. Just even from the structure that I'm looking at here. So I would be surprised if these bodies are being maintained and they're still alive for the souls to go back into in a failsafe if the witness is defeated. But then there's the other possibility. What if it's not just a failsafe? What if it's a requirement? What if the bodies had to stay alive for the witness to be alive? My point is, what if you can't, okay, like this. So it looks like on the surface, the people died, and then the witness was made. But what if that couldn't have happened if the bodies actually died? Does that make sense? If that is the case, then that means the witness can only exist for as long as all of these bodies, or most of them, are still there. So, that presents a very severe weakness. And my question was, I wonder what would happen if you truly destroyed one of the bodies, if you like burned it or something. If the bodies being alive was not required for the creation of the witness, then I would say for all intents and purposes that sure, they have true mortality. But if the bodies needed to be kept alive for the witness to be made, that's a very big weakness, and you're looking at a Cloud Ark situation where they're all living beyond their bodies, but their bodies are still needed. And that is then the truth of the realm of souls, the idea of true mortality, the explanation behind the Cloud Ark and the Vex. Why do I keep saying the Vex? The Exos and their link to the Veil, and answering the question about the Pyramid Race and what the Whispers are and why they're moving stuff or whatever. And also even further opening the door to potentially getting the race as an actual faction someday. So that is pretty much everything. If there are any questions that you have about anything that I have mentioned that hasn't been asked already, because I haven't seen the chat, please let me know and I'll go over all of it. But yeah, that's basically it. GG. I'll go back to the... I will pull up the chat for you guys, just so you can see like where I'm at. Here we go. Hey World Wonder Studios, how you doing, man? Thank you for being here. Wonder if the was Yep, that was yep. That was basically what I was talking about. I'm not saying by the way that this will happen. I'm just saying that it seems logical to me that those bodies indicate that that could happen. Okay. Okay, so most of the pyramids are made of the souls during the club. So that was the okay, bro. So okay. If you're still here, so that video about the original story of the collapse, I don't think that that is a thing now, right? I think that if the Veil Theory Part 2 is true regarding the pyramid race, that they were in soul form in the pyramids since day one of the witness. If that makes sense. Okay, I forgot about... Bro, just let's pretend it didn't happen. Reminds me of the canopic jars. Exactly, yep. Fair. And that's the thing, and I mentioned this in the video, but it gets complicated. It's not really clean how they explain it. On one hand, they say that clarity control is used to transfer things. But then in other parts, they're like, oh yeah, we just downloaded a scan of their brain and just copied and pasted. So it's a bit, but I do get you. That would mean one wrong move and there's... Not really, Felix. Not really, no. The witness, for all we have seen, seems to be indestructible. So that's, the tank the tank is doing a pretty good job of that, right? We have no way at all of destroying a pyramid. At all. We have utterly no way of destroying a pyramid at the moment. So from the outside, the bodies are very much safe because the ships are protecting them. Now, and that actually just reminded me of something that I forgot to mention. But what's interesting is that I think that there are so many ships that even if you are allowed... First of all, if somebody gets into the ship, most likely they're not going to really care about the bodies. Not really. And even if they take a couple, what are 5, 10, 100 bodies compared to 1 million? Right? It's nothing in the grand scheme of things. I really don't think that even letting people inside, or anybody that's been inside, I don't think it's a threat at all. At all. Also, nobody knows what the bodies are for. And also, and we've seen this and because of what I'm going to talk about, but if you actually were going around with the intention of destroying all the bodies, the pyramid would make sure that you didn't do that. And this brings us to the Cabal, when they went inside their open pyramid. And I think, and this kind of blew my mind, so I believe that, so one of the main differentiating factors between the witness and the race is that the witness will speak to you directly in a way that you can understand, and that's it, right? The whispers don't. You don't know what they're saying, and they're not talking about you. 99% of the time, they are not talking about you. And yet, in the European mission, when you're on the pyramid, when you go through that mission, when the whispers happen, it's really loud in your ear, and it's only for like maybe 2 seconds at a time. In my opinion, that seems to be directed at you. Right? In the sense that it's not just like an ambient sound. It's very much a intentional, loud, in your ear type of thing. And then you have the pyramid moving things around and killing Cabal and whatnot. I don't believe that's the witness. I truly don't. Unless the witness is like, 1 million miles away, and then it's like, oh, I can see through my mind that there are Cabal in Sector 5 of the 15th pyramid. I'm going to move that door right now. I just don't buy that. It's goofy, and it just doesn't work for me. In my opinion, it's way cleaner if the race themselves do that. Okay? That brings us to the next point, which is that I think it is very interesting that the one time the race are directly interacting like that, and they're whispering at you and all of that, it is when the Cabal are directly threatening their way of staying around, which is the statue. At the end of that mission, the whole reason all of that was going on was because not only were the Cabal trying to destroy the statue, but they had actually, and I have to say I'm kind of impressed with the Cabal for this, they actually developed technology that suppressed the statue. And if you notice, when you begin disabling the suppressors, tech begins to move and stuff begins to move. It's like they're actually beginning to get back control again of that part of the ship. And so, yeah, I think that this was very much a, okay, we need your help, just do this, please. Like, please. So anyway, that's my point regarding that. I don't think that there's any major threat. I think that really, I think that you would need to destroy like 75% of the Black Fleet to really do anything with the bodies that would weaken the witness that much. And how do you do that? How does anybody do that? We are the literally most powerful beings in the universe apart from the witness, and we don't have any way of even getting past the pyramid ship's shields. So. Bro, exactly. That's the radio mast, which they've never explained. They've never explained that. And, making, like, bro, make the link with the radio. Well, actually, I will tell you, So in everything that I have done with the radio mast, looking into it, I do think that the radio mast has the potential to be a light artifact. I do think there is a good chance that the radio mast is a light artifact. But I'm not going to really... I still need to do more looking into it, but yeah, I don't know. It's a goofy thing. Yeah, clone, I'm sorry, man. Yeah. If the statues could come... Oh, that's another thing. Sorry. So, another thing that is in the equation that I don't have answers for are the statues of the people and, like, you know, like, so, like, you know, like the statues... I'll just get a better picture. Get a better picture for you. These statues. So, I will just say it. I do think there is evidence for these statues being possessed, and I say that because when you go near these statues, you'll hear this weird like growling sound. It's really creepy, and I've shown it on stream a few times. I can't explain that. I don't know what that is. Like I don't know what's going on at all. Is there a chance that these statues could come to life? I don't think so, because we have seen statues of the same material made for Rolk and Nezarek, and very clearly that wasn't with the statues having the intention of being brought back to life. So I don't think these statues are going to come back to life. But, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely... the growling is something to be taken into consideration. So is the Witness basically a portable Cloud Ark? I would say, Tailgate, that... kind of. But I would actually say that the... I would say that the Veiled Woman's stat... Do you know what? Sure. Okay, let's just say... Okay, I got it. So, the Cloud Ark lets the people on Neomuna be holograms, right? But if they made a ship, or if they had a ship, right? They couldn't get one of the holograms to go onto the ship and then leave and go to Earth, and then it's still on the ship, right? It's going to lose connection to the Cloud Ark. So I guess, sure, imagine the Witness like a portable Cloud Ark, but then think of the Veiled Woman statues as signal boosters. Yeah, exactly, Felix. Yeah. Nobody, I mean, the only time we've ever heard of somebody actually damaging pyramid stuff would have been potentially Savathun with Rolk's pyramid, but I think that's cringe, and I just don't want to think about it. And also Mara, or no, it wasn't Mara. Was it Mara or was it Suro? Whatever her name is. Ido, that was it. No, Azure Ido, that was it. One of the two had a vision that in the future Mara would like karate chop pyramids in half. I don't know. But yeah. Where'd be my phone? Oh, it's not bad. Okay. But that's basically everything. And the thing is, like, I know, like, I've said all this, and it's like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. But again, it requires the actual explanation that's given in the Veil Theory Part 1. And then you actually do need the examples of the Cloud Ark and the Neomuni, and then the Exos and Clovis and the Veiled Statues. It's all connected together. But once you actually do that and you connect all those dots, you're kind of just like, oh well, yeah, okay, yeah, cool. So I feel really good about it, and I think it's probably one of the cleanest theories I've had yet. I would say, in terms of theories that I've made, this is probably the most airtight that I've ever done. So I'm very happy with it. Yep. Yeah. Also, there's a video that I wanted to react to with you guys, but I when it comes to reacting to things, I like getting permission from the people. And I know that there's like, I feel like the majority of people are like, oh, I don't care, dude, just do whatever. But you know, I don't like the idea of just doing that and whatever. But basically, there's a video that Paul Tassi made, and I really recommend that you check it out. I haven't seen all of it. Let me find. Okay. Here you go. Destiny 2, the failure of the Witness as a villain and his bizarrely empty pyramids. And I haven't watched all of it, I haven't even watched half of it, but so far I find it to be very interesting. And what I will say is that he kind of... This is basically like what I was gonna make my big boy video about after Final Shape, which is that for anybody who's into writing, either for like books, games, shows, anything like that, the pyramid ships are a case study on how not to build up an antagonist and pay off, because they were built up and then with Beyond Light they just fell flat. Haven't recovered since. Most people probably don't actually care about them as much as they did before, and they're certainly not as afraid of them as they were before, or intimidated. And then as for the Witness is a cardboard character, and I don't find the character very... the character's very one-dimensional for me, and what's unfortunate is, so the character has zero personality outside of speaking in riddles and acting in an intimidating way, and all of the value for the character comes from their motivations, but the problem is I find those motivations to be really cringe and lame. So your entire reason for why I should be interested in the character doesn't work at all. So as a villain, then, the Witness is just... And here's the thing, right? And you can say I'm like a winnower simp or whatever, but you take the character that is the winnower, and it's like, okay, first of all, this dude is extremely dangerous and powerful, but every time they've ever communicated, it's basically in a very charismatic and friendly way, which is kind of creepy, but also kind of like, huh, okay, this is a bit interesting. And the motivations, literally, they're like, dude, this is my argument, this is why I'm right, I'm gonna win anyway, but this is why you should join me. And it's just like, oh dang, that's actually like a good point. Huh. Okay, well, I guess you know what you're talking about. The Witness doesn't have that. And, yeah. And again, I wanted to watch the video, but I don't know. I just like, I like getting just the kind of the nod from the people. And I knew I tweeted at Paul, but I don't think I'm going to get a response. So it is what it is. But I really recommend that you watch this in your own time. And maybe I'll actually make a video just going over this one, giving my thoughts on it. But, anyway. Actually, do you know what I'll do? Really quickly. And I definitely can for sure do this. We're gonna react to this. Here we go. Well, let's react to this. Here we go. That's fair, clone. I just it's listen, it's a preference thing at the end of the day, but actually, I'm glad we aren't fighting some dark. Oh, I can't actually see what the message is. We aren't fighting some dark god or other trope. I think that's fair. Here's the thing, and I did say this. It isn't like that the Witness. So okay, so. The Witness and the Winnower are two different categories of villain, fundamentally. The Winnower is like the god, top of the food chain, like source of dark power character. The Witness is it's the how do I say this? It's the will of its people. It is the character who is attempting to go against the grain of the flower game, if that makes sense. Legion from Fallout New Vegas. I don't actually know anything about that, but I wouldn't be surprised, because I've only ever heard good things about New Vegas. But here's oh right, yeah. Okay, I have heard of that for sure. There's also that guy, oh what's his name? There's that guy, the guy with all the bandages that I've seen, and he looks really cool. Or his character's really cool. But anyway, going back to the Witness, it's not like I don't see what they're trying to do with the character. I 100% see what they're doing with the character. I understand fully the story that they're trying to pull with the race and what they want and why they made the Witness and what the Witness wants. I literally see that in the Witness's personality, in the way the Witness talks, in the emotions in its voice. I 100% understand and recognize all of that. There will be one person, presumably the people here who like the character, who see those things, they recognize those things, and that ticks the boxes for them that makes a good character. I see those things, I recognize those things, and to me they fall short. And that's a... Listen, we can have a debate on like objectivity and subjectivity. I think to a certain extent that there are some just objective factors about the Witness that aren't good, but a lot of it is subjective for sure. And so I think if you're somebody who enjoys the Witness as a character, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have anything against that. My one friend, what I noticed is that he actually compared the Witness to Darth Vader in the ominous, menacing presence that the character has. And I'm like, okay, yeah, if that's really your key thing with a villain like that, then 100% it makes sense. For me, though, it's just not enough for me. But anyway, I want to read this article. I have not read this yet, but I have a vague idea of what's going on here, and I want to give you my thoughts on it. We are heading towards the end of Destiny 2. Well, not really, but the end of the first 10 years of Destiny 2. The story of the Traveler's light and the darkness which has been the driving force behind the entire series. And now, it's time for some reflection before the final shape. This article was sparked by a pair of posts I saw circulating. One that said Savathun is a better villain than the Witness, and the typo, probably want to fix that. And a second which remarked how bizarre it was that when the great fleet of pyramid ships arrived, they were empty. I remarked that I believed this was an inflection point for the game, and I really do think that it's true. It felt like a key moment where suddenly Destiny simply could not be as big as it needed to be. I actually agree with him on that, yeah. That there was no fully new race of enemies that poured out of those ships when it came time to reveal that what was inside. That they were infested with old enemies and just one lanky dude we hadn't seen before. This quote-unquote empty idea worked for a while. I was fine with the discovery of the first buried pyramid under the moon, as that seemed like something that obviously would have been long abandoned, and that was an extremely cool moment to see for the first time. Then, hype built as Destiny 2's Season of the Worthy had the little dots appearing on the radar that showed the pyramids, activated during the Red War campaign, that they were heading towards us. Then, in Season of Arrivals, they arrived. Nothing emerged from the pyramids, but they did vacuum up some of our planets and moons, which seemed like a big deal. But then, nothing. Over the course of time, the next few expansions and seasons, we slowly learned that the pyramids are just pyramids. Like the Traveler, they are paracausal objects that are simply that, objects. And again, I've explained why that's not true, but it's whatever. Some of them contain a single disciple like Rolk, but are not full of, say, Rolk's race, given that you have to be the last surviving member of your species to gain true disciple status. True, as far as I'm aware. Eventually, and also, I'm pretty sure, I wouldn't be surprised if Callus's shadows are a complete knockoff of the disciples. Eventually, we learned that the Witness, the thing controlling all these pyramids, was too, in a sense, the only surviving member of its race, embodying an entire civilization in one being. This is exceedingly lame, if you ask me. True, I agree. I think that a lot of it is from context, right? If this was a character in a book, I think it would do better. But because we're in a game where we're used to getting new enemy factions that we fight, when the pyramids were introduced, it was automatically assumed that they would be connected to a new enemy race. And so that is something, and a grudge that is held against the Witness that wouldn't be held in a show or a book, if that makes sense. So I think for the game it makes sense, sure. But if this was a different medium, I think that a lot of this lameness is actually kind of, it's only because of the context of this being in a video game, where we're used to getting new enemy factions. And the fact that the pyramid arrival did not come with a new system invading force was a pure decision and use of resources. And the thing is, if we got a Destiny 3, I don't know about this, but this would have happened, and we probably would have gotten, new destinations with the new game, and then they would have been able to say, okay, you don't just lose a few planets, you lose the system, and you've been pushed out to beyond it, and then you get your 4 new or whatever destinations for D3. Because there's no D3, they can't do that, and so we got the vaulting of the already existing destinations, and that's about it. We had gotten the Taken, but that was just a reskinning of old enemies with new abilities, and then the Scorn, which were modified Fallen. But nothing from those pyramids, which has been an event hyped for years. This goes back to the long-rumored arrival of the Veil, which was supposed to be the name of the enemy race. But and also, I want to say this right now. I had a conversation with Archival Mind, and I asked him, you said to me that in the code or whatever, that the term the Veil ship was used for the pyramid. And I was like, was that actually true and reliable? And he was like, yes, 100%. And I was like, okay. Anyway, I'm just saying. Yeah, the Veil was transformed into the Veil, which was the big tadpole MacGuffin. That's actually a good one, tadpole. In Lightfall, that will help soon beam us through. So I haven't done this story in ages, so I guess I just kind of got spoiled, but it is what it is. Not quite the same thing. The thing is, it sure feels like the pieces of this were already starting to be in place, but by this point, we have gotten a number of enemies that absolutely feel like they all could have been part of a pyramid race. But instead, they're slowly trickling out, and they've been doing that for 2+ years now. We have Rolk, the definitely unique enemy model, as the raid boss from Witch Queen. We got Tormentors in Lightfall, and Super Tormentor, and a Super Tormentor with Rolk, or Nezarec, sorry. We got Pyramid Mechanic Shields for Cabal during that time, and now with the final shape we are getting Subjugators, mini Rolks that either have Strand or Stasis powers, somewhat similar to Scorn Captains. And that adds up to what, at least a third of the total units you'd probably need for a full race, but ones that have been crawling to release and were certainly not ready for a post-Arrivals invasion. The Scorn and Cabal, for instance, have 8 total enemy types. Do the Cabal of 8? What, you've got your normal Legionary dude, Colossus, Centurion, Scions. I guess he's including like vehicles and stuff like that, is he? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Do the Cabal of 8? I'm not too sure. I think all of this feeds into why the finale of Destiny 2 feels so hollow. We are not fighting a war against anything other than disloyal versions of Hive, Vex, Scorn, and Taken being puppeted by the Witness and its servants. And they're right. The Witness is a far, far less fleshed out villain than, almost any other villain we've had. Especially Savathûn, but even Callus, Aramis, Riven, Oryx, even Xivu Arath, we've never even actually seen yet. How are we really supposed to care about this confrontation against a thing that has had maybe a dozen lines in this entire series? It doesn't work. Okay, 2 things here. So the first is that point that somebody made that Savathûn's a better villain than the Witness. I disagree. So I disagree that this is the core of what they're saying. Do I think Savathûn is a better villain than the Witness? Yes, but that's not really a hard bar to reach, in my opinion. I think if you had a conversation with those people who said that Savathûn is a better villain than the Witness, I think if you really talk to them, you would discover that the core of what they're actually saying is that Savathûn is a better character than the Witness. And I believe that. The main reason why I don't believe this whole villain thing with Savathûn is because I don't believe Bungie wants Savathûn to be a villain. Now, historically, she's been a villain, true. But ever since Witch Queen, she has been painted in a tragic and almost sympathetic light. Look at Witch Queen. The main campaign of Witch Queen consists of 2 core parts. The first is that the reveal that she didn't steal the light, like a villain like Gaul would. She was actually given the light. And that it also revealed to us the tragedy of the Hive, in that they were deceived by the Witness. In my opinion, I think the end goal for Bungie and whoever's writing Savathûn, and this is also why I think they're doing the whole collapse thing, where they're making Savathûn the sole savior of humanity in the collapse. They want Savathûn to not be a villain. They want Savathûn to be an anti-hero and potentially even be redeemed as a hero. And I think that this is the same thing that's happening with Aramis as well in the future, So that's my opinion on that. The second thing is about the lack of voice lines for the Witness. I actually don't think that the amount of voice lines really matters. You can have characters who don't talk, and yet they're extremely impactful. You can have some really sick silent characters too. I think it's not that the witness doesn't say much, it's what the witness actually says. And I think the witness has so much vagueness and speaks in riddles that there's nothing truly impactful. So, I think when the witness was first introduced in that cutscene, that was pretty decent dialogue, right? That was fine. It was a good introduction, relatively speaking. But I think a lot of what comes after that is just been it's just a bit hollow for me anyway. And I think that if the voice lines for the witness were far more impactful, if it has like 12 or something lines, I don't even know how many it has, it wouldn't really matter as much because, again, the amount of voice lines does not determine the quality of a character. It doesn't. You can have characters with that many lines who are just as good, if not better, and you can even have silent characters who don't really talk. So, it is what it is. I was literally looking at a dude from Lost Ark. He's a villain, and he doesn't talk at all. But I think he's really cool, just because he looks really cool. But I mean, again, that's just me. But anyway, my greatest hope for Destiny 2 after the final shape is that after 10 years, we will finally get a fully new race of enemies to fight, not one built on an old race. And we've only had 2 of those in 10 years. Whether it's finishing this Rolk enemy race type or something else, we are long past time, and the fact that this race did not end up existing was a turning point for the game's story that moved in a much worse direction. So I think his video that I mentioned does go into more detail about this, but just quickly going back over this article, I see 3 main points to it. The first is the lack of a payoff to this built-up pyramid invasion of Sol that never happened. The second is the lack of a new enemy race. And the third is the witness as a character. And no offense, but this was a very brief article, and I think that it only kind of shallowly explored each of these topics. And I've talked about this a lot over the past, and I think if you're here, you've probably remembered what I've said, but I think a lot of this is geared towards Destiny 3. And the thing with Destiny 3 is, again, it wasn't just like the next story. Because it was a brand new game and it had a brand new big, okay, the main campaign of the base game is always going to be bigger than an expansion. So, for example, Destiny 2's Red War. That was a pretty long campaign compared to the expansions. A lot of destinations and missions and cutscenes and stuff like that. I think if you had one of those, but for D3, you're looking at probably it being, what's the word? A newer engine, and then I could also see it D3 more quickly becoming next gen only. Probably would have been a pretty beefy and large-sized campaign, especially if they kept. But this is all assuming that they kept Activision or Activision kept them. So again, you have even more people, right? That would have allowed for you to introduce a new race and have a really big story. With that being gone, it just fell apart. And so you have this build-up towards Beyond Light with the Pyramid Race and the ships and the invasion of Sol and the second collapse. And I think it's one of two possible situations that happened. And I'll tell you which one I think it is, but I'll say both of them. The first is that Bungie stopped D3 and needed to pivot away, and they knew that they wouldn't be able to pay off the build-up, but it was too late to really do that. They were too far in, if that makes sense, and content was already being made, and they can't have the build-up of Season of the Worthy, for example, and then have nothing for Arrival. They had to follow through with it. And the second option is that they knew they weren't going to pay it off, but they just decided to do the build-up anyway. Like, from the beginning. From the very beginning, they're like, okay, we're going to start this build-up, but we know we're not going to really pay it off. I think it was the first. I think that it was too soon, you know, or, like, they couldn't change in time. It was like the Titanic, right? They saw the iceberg and they're like, oh no, but they knew, yeah, we're not going to miss this thing. So that's my opinion on that, the whole invasion. I think this was totally geared for D3. The new enemy faction is the same thing. We probably would have gotten a new enemy faction in D3. And in case you're wondering, okay, so why don't they give us a new enemy faction in D2? I think a lot of it is actually not to do with their capabilities. It's context, it's story. If they're going to introduce a new enemy race, especially one connected to the pyramids, there needs to be a really good and solid story connected to it. And let's be honest, if it wasn't for my videos, and I'm not being egotistical or bragging, but a lot of the information that exists about the pyramids in my videos are from places that people wouldn't normally see. Bungie needs to do a proper pyramid story, and they have yet to really do that. All of the best information is in the environment, which is not a very player-friendly medium. So they're not just going to randomly introduce this race and then have it be a really lame story or like not really any context, or because I think they genuinely care about the faction. They genuinely care about this faction and they want to do justice by them. So anyway, I don't think it's like, oh, well, guys, it's too expensive to make a new enemy race, or we just can't do it. No, I think they can. It's just they want to have a good story connected to them. And honestly, fair enough. And again, I think that's connected to Destiny 3. That being said, I think the other opportune time is the final shape. But we will see. And then the third part is the Witness as a character and a villain. He didn't really go into this that much. The only thing that I really picked up on was just saying that the Witness is a far less fleshed out villain than Savathun, and that it had less voice lines. My reasons for the Witness not being a good villain are a bit different than that, but overall, this is the article. I thought it was pretty decent. I really recommend that you watch the video of his. Paul Tassi. I showed it on YouTube. But yeah, anyway. And he knew how to adapt to the wasteland life. Oh, okay. Yeah, self-aware added here. Yeah, I get you. I've been so far away from Destiny bits of the last couple weeks. Yeah, I haven't played in weeks, man. He believes violence is enough to push the opposite faction. It's the R from before. Right. I should definitely play it. I really need to play that. I'm not surprised that Tassi expected a new enemy race. He was as many times right in his predictions as he was wrong. Well, I don't think it's... So, there's a difference between expectations and predictions. So, like, I can say, I predict that the final shape is going to have a new enemy race because it's the perfect time to do it, or my friend's cousin's whatever works at Bungie and they told me. Right? That's a prediction. An expectation is based off of, well, we've gotten new enemy races in the past, and the pyramids certainly seem like a faction that should have a race connected to them. You know? He's not talking about anything that I've talked about with what the pyramid race actually are, or their history, or their story. It's just, yeah, these pyramids, I kind of feel like they should have had a race, man. Like, I don't really like that I went inside and it was just taken and scorned. And again, this is what I said about the Witness as a villain in the context of the medium. The Witness being the entire race in a book or a show would probably not actually be seen as lame, right? It's that lame in Destiny purely because it's seen as the cop-out reason for there not being a playable, or not playable, but like enemy faction in game. And Destiny 2 is an environment where we are again used to and have experienced getting new factions. So it's the context of that, right? So I think there's a difference between expecting and predicting, but do I think if somebody said I expected there to be a race with the pyramids, do I think that is unrealistic? Absolutely not. They have the right to expect that. I expected it. And I think that if you were disappointed with there not being a new enemy faction with Beyond Light, I think you're definitely in the right, for sure. From Lightfall's opening, any cutscene pyramid seemed to me like a... Can you just go away, please? Some sorts. See, I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, thank you for telling me. Look at Nox's abilities from... That is, I will say that I did like it. So I need to finish that game as well, but I loved the whole summoning swords out of thin air stuff, but I don't really see how that applies to the pyramids. But other than attacking the witness, use them to surround and, I don't know, secure the traveler? Yeah, I don't know. That cutscene was just... I don't know. It's whatever. I remember back in Arrivals, the ghost mentioned that the pyramids were living or something along those lines. So that's the thing. Yes. And I've talked to people about this. Yeah, this is a line that comes up quite a bit. So there's a few different ways of looking at it. The first is that the ghost doesn't know what it's talking about. Now that might sound like a cop-out from me or harsh, but this is what happened in... Well, you need to remember what was happening at the exact same time as that line. Characters saying that the pyramids were the darkness. They were wrong. So I actually don't think it's necessarily wrong for the ghost to be not correct with that line. The other option is that whatever the ghost felt, that it wasn't the actual ships, but it was the power of the witness and the race inside. Also, again, I can't explain this, but I do think resonance has a bit of paracausality going on with it. So my point is that there's a chance that whatever the ghost was feeling or sensing, it thinking that the ships themselves were alive because of that was a misinterpretation of what it was detecting. Yeah. I would say the same thing. Yeah. Either the statue or the witness. Yep. I would say the same thing. Yep, I agree. I stopped playing D2 because the gameplay just became boring and frustrating to me. That's fine. That's fair, dude. Yeah. Listen, when you've been playing a game for so many years, it's going to happen eventually. It's going to be different for everybody, right? Not everybody's going to have that happen, and it's going to happen to people at different rates. Just like how people play the game for different amounts, right? So some people play the game 2 hours a week. Some people play it 10 hours a week. Everybody plays the game differently. Everybody enjoys it differently. And people will move on from it differently. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. Unrelated to this, but I recently finished my replay of Mass Effect Andromeda, and I personally think that it's not that bad, even though the game's main villain was Saturday Morning. Yeah, I do want to play Andromeda, but I think I might play it after the Legendary Edition. But yeah, we'll see. I do know that Andromeda is not like after 3, but whatever. It's not that I'm against new enemies to shoot at, but it's not like the lore even explicitly promised. And I will agree. So, just because the existence... So, I think it's pretty much concrete that the presence of there being a race was there. That doesn't mean... Like, Bungie never promised that there was a race. The lore never promised or even indicated a new enemy faction. Again, it's the expectation that the players had. And I think that's definitely true. That's really what it comes down to, you know? Something for me that I kind of think about is I found it frustrating. Obviously, this is because of the whole Activision and the studios and stuff like that, but I found it frustrating how Bungie was willing to design and create a new enemy faction that was just designed off of just Zombie Fallen. Just for the giggles for Forsaken, right? You're willing to make a faction all about the Zombie Fallen, but you won't do this for your main antagonist faction. It's like, priorities, I don't know. But, no, like, you're right. There was never anything in the lore that said that we were going to get a new proper faction, if that makes sense, in game to fight, for sure. But yeah. But anyway, yeah, I wanted to just talk about that. I don't think, did he say anything else? Yeah. What I think I'll do is I'm gonna hit the video of his, and then if there's anything that's new in that, I'll just talk about that. But it's yeah, I asked him if it was alright if I reacted to it, and he didn't say anything, so it's whatever. Okay. I'm going to end that here because I need to get ready for bed, and also I need to talk to my girlfriend because we actually had scheduled to talk at this time roughly. So I'm gonna go. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I do apologize for dropping off the face of the earth for 2 weeks. Basically, my girlfriend came to visit from the States for 2 weeks, and then I just kind of, like, I just kind of disappeared. But she left yesterday, and yeah, it's sad, man. It's been sad, but I'm getting back into the swing of things, and especially starting next week, we should kick back off. And yeah, I have a script for a video already done. I just need to do the voiceover and make the video and stuff like that. So that should be next week for sure. And then yeah, anyway, I will talk to all of you later. Let me just real quick. I personally found the faction, yeah, and that's fine. Yeah. I personally found the faction between. Yeah, that's a really basic and kind of bare bones thing, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know. I think that I think villains often get the short end of the stick when it comes to writing, but it's a bit unfortunate. But anyway, I am going to go. I will talk to you guys next week, and yeah, again, I hope all of you had a great holiday, and you have a great 2024. And let's hope that in a few months' time, bro, we are in the year of the final shape. It's getting closer.